Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at what psychological tests are and how they work. First, what is a psychological test? Well, it's a standardized measurement of a sample of behavior that establishes norms and uses important test items that correspond to what the test is trying to discover about the test taker. It's also based on using uniformity of procedures in administering and scoring the tests. So, what does all this mean? Well, let's start with the standardized measure of a sample of behavior. This is an established reference point that a test scorer can use to evaluate, judge, measure against, and compare. So how do we get this reference point? We establish norms. Now norms, what they rely on are the number of test takers who take a given test to establish what is normal in that group. Then the scorer can determine where an individual falls in that group, which is why having a larger sample or a bigger group of individuals taking a test is better. So what about the test items? Well, test items are the questions that a test taker is asked on any given test. They must be relevant to what the test is trying to measure and must have large sets in order to establish a proper measurement. So what does that mean? In other words, it needs to have a whole lot of questions. Now why? Because more questions equal more chances of establishing what a test taker knows and what a test taker doesn't know in order to find their norm. Now, uniformity of procedures in administering and scoring of tests, this refers to an administrator presenting the test in the same way, test takers taking the test in the same way, and scorers scoring the test in the same way every given time that this test is given, taken, and scored. Now, this helps with validity and reliability. Now, validity is testing exactly what one is trying to discover. In other words, if I want to know how much an individual is familiarized with algebra, I'm not going to give them a test in biology. Make sense? Now, reliability is referring to being able to create the same or similar outcome every time a test is taken. For example, if I were to take the same or similar test 3 times in a row in the course of 3 weeks, my test scores, if I knew the material well, would average somewhere between 8 to 10. That's the standard deviation. There could have been emotional stress. There could have been other factors that may have made me test a slightly lower or slightly higher, but in general, I test in the 8 to 10 group. That establishes where my norm is, which would be about 9. So now, you know. Thank you and good job.